First of all, I need to ask if there's anyone in the crowd who isn't Muslim. Okay. It's good. I just want to know because it's not the only purpose for me asking is this. You have to know who you're talking to, right? So I have to make sure that there's something here in the crowd. I'm just talking to other Muslims. As is customary, I started by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator and sustainer, the only one who's worthy of worship, who has no likeness in the heavens and the earth, cannot be compared to any of his creation in any way, has no form, has no shape, and his name is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We say Alhamdulillah, we praise this being, the that of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we send salutations, peace and blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also all the prophets that came before. Everyone who came giving the same message, which is that God, our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one, and one not just meaning in numerals, 1, 2, 3, 4, but one meaning unique in his being, in his attributes, in his actions, and like I said before, not comparable to anything in all of creation, or not even anything that the human mind can conjure up. Allah Ta'ala is beyond that. So that one Allah who created everything and controls everything, every prophet has come to deliver the message that He is one and we should worship Him, and human beings have the honor that they are to bow to none other than His Creator. And so, after saying that, I will try to keep everything short, which is that I've been given a few questions here and I was supposed to talk about these things. Really, I don't like talking about my story because I don't find it a benefit in myself, but hopefully there will be benefit in it for others. Now, an introduction of myself. My name is Abdul Hakim. My given name was Ian. My last name is Dickinson. As you can see, I am very much so Anglo-Saxon. Okay, so much so that one side of my family, if you want to ask about my family background, my father's family is the Dickinson family, obviously. He was the first Yankee born in the family. All the rest of them from Tennessee and Virginia and Georgia, respectively. I even have a relative who was in the Confederate Army. The other side is my mother's background. She's actually born in Germany. So I actually have a relative who was in the Wehrmacht as well. In other words, I have also a relative who fought for Hitler in World War II. So, interesting background, right? So anyhow, that's my family background. And cultural, religious background, although my family background is such, but my parents, if you can guess, right, because now in the media, this is one of the things they try to say, that most of the people converts, especially Caucasian converts, are from a quote-unquote liberal background, right? So my parents were hippies, real hippies. They lived on a commune with no running water and electricity. They believed in cultural unity. I was brought up, alhamdulillah, and I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this. I was brought up in a house where I never heard any type of racial slur. I never heard degradation of any culture. Matter of fact, it was considered to be cool to actually, mix and mingle with people of other cultures and try to understand where they're coming from. And so that was my background. That's how I was raised religiously. So as you can guess, also I wasn't raised in any particular religion. I can say that, obviously my father's side of the family were Protestant, and they were religious. My father still was slightly religious, even though he's a hippie in origins. Okay. My mother, she's, I guess she's a free spirit. She believes whatever she wants to believe. Buddhism one day, Sufism the next day, Islam one day, who knows what, right? So she's a free spirit. She has no particular church or anything like that she goes to. So I was raised in that type of background, and when I was in high school, I myself found many paths. I used to skateboard, I used to listen to punk rock, I used to listen to hip hop, I used to listen to reggae music, I used to DJ reggae music. I used to go to organizations in Philadelphia called, the White Socialist Movement for the Black to work with solidarity for the Black Socialist Movement. That's the kind of thing I was doing in high school. So what happened then is that I started reading because I already had ideas about the world as far as social issues are concerned. I already had my own ideas. But spiritually, I was kind of at a loss because I wasn't raised in a religious household. So therefore, I started reading, and one of the first books I picked up actually was the autobiography of Malcolm X, because at that time I was into the whole hip-hop scene. So I was interested. I wanted to see what he had to say. Of course, we know that he was more properly known to be in the Nation of Islam. So one time I asked my father that, I want to read the book, but I heard he hates white people. So my father, being who he is, his response is, maybe if you were African American, you hate white people too. So that was his response, right? So anyhow, I picked up the autobiography of Malcolm X. I read it twice, and I really, may Allah Ta'ala bless him, because I really think that he was a figure in American history that people really don't pay enough attention to. And I wish we had a person of that type of courage around us in this day and age. The ability to just be able to speak the truth and not really care what happens to them after that. We're really missing that, unfortunately. And I was impressed. I was very impressed. However, the whole thing about white people being devils, and I couldn't accept this. Then, as you know, you go on later on the autobiography of Malcolm X and his trip to Hajj, where he became a Sunni Muslim, for lack of better words, an Orthodox Muslim. And obviously his view was also towards, European Americans had also changed, and that it appeared to me that Islam is a path that is also meant for everybody. And after reading the Quran and reading more material on Orthodox Islam, then I began to realize that there is no such thing as Islam being based on one culture or one race, that it is in fact a universal message. And so that opened my eyes, and I began to also realize that the other things that I knew from being, even though, like I said, we weren't raised in one religion, but still we had a cultural, background of Christianity. So there are certain things that were already familiar to me, which is, belief in one God, monotheism, the belief of the hereafter, and prophets. All of these themes were already known to us, and most of us in our cultural background here in America. So when that was being repeated in the Quran, what with the emphasis that there is no such thing as the chosen people based on just your ethnic background. There's no such thing as a man who is equal to God, or anything that is equal to God for that matter. In fact, when I met one brother from Saudiya, he asked me one time, what was the one, because I read the whole Quran in English at that time, translation to English. And so he asked me, what is the one thing in the Quran that hit you the most? And I said, Surah Al-Ikhlas. This is one of the in the end of the Quran, it's about the second or third to last of the surah, chapters of the Quran. And this Quran explains the divinity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like I mentioned before, not just divinity, but the uniqueness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being uncomprehensible, being unlike anything, meaning he has nothing equal to him in whatsoever. So there's nothing that you can liken our Creator to, neither from your imagination or from anything that you can see around you. And this hit me, because I realized that the concept of one Creator and one God, I believed in that, but I didn't know what is the path towards that Creator. So that hit me, and I realized that this is the only message I could find, because I read about everything.